It is nice and well-deserved. It's
Thank
well-deserved.
Thank you.
And you look great. You look great. I walked into the dressing room and they were doing your hair and everything, and it's turned out you looked great before they were doing your hair.
Thanks, Howie.
No, you do. You got the cold curly look, right?
Yeah,
That's
well,
your thing.
you know, yeah.
We have the curly look. But
have-
I read that you were. What? What is so funny about that? We have the whole curly look, and I've got
And
this
I
look.
can all,
There you
yeah,
go.
you know?
That's part of it. I showed that a little earlier. But this is natural, right?
This is natural.
Natural.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I read you were a perm model.
Wow. You
Wow,
read
that I read?
Yeah,
Or-
because that
Is that
yeah.
true?
It is true. When I was working in London when I
Right.
was 17 years old in a clothing store, and you made no money
Right.
at all. And I was walking down the street and someone said, "Listen, we'll pay you $100, 50 pounds if you hair model for us, and all you got to do is walk down the runway." So they'd put me in like a little cat suit thing, and I'd walk down the runway, and they'd say, "This is our home perm."
The
And I
home perm.
Yeah.
So they lied.
They totally lied.
So people would go buy the product,
Thinking their hair would look like mine.
and they just picked up a woman
Sure.
off the street with curly hair.
Yeah, it's a great way to make money when you're 17.
Was that your break into the business? You said, hey, if I can model perms, I could do anything?
Well, then I had a tragic experience actually doing that because I got a little cocky with it because
Right.
I sort of became known as the girl who would walk down the runway and pick up 50 bucks and
The girl who would do anything for $100.
for the curly hair. So I was in Italy, and my junior year in college I went abroad to Italy, and the stock market crashed.
Right?
And my dad called me and he said, "Honey, in a little bit of trouble. You got to get a job."
What, he was in the stock market?
Well, all my college funds were in the stock market. Not all of them, but
Not
most
all-
of them.
So that okay, now you're poor. Bang, you're in Italy.
I was a little bit poor.
And
So I had to get a job.
Right.
And I got a job tutoring English, which was hysterical because I didn't speak any Italian, which is the best way to teach English because you just go, "No," and you just have to start acting things out. And
Right.
I taught a lawyer. I taught this wonderful Swiss-Italian woman who became like a surrogate mother to me. And then I was walking down the street, and
Right.
someone said, "Would you like to model your hair? We're doing a hair show." And I went, "Great, how much?"
Another hair show.
Another hair show. And at that point, I was 20, and my hair was, down to here. And I didn't speak any Italian. It was only my second week there.
Right?
So I went in, and there was about 7 models, and they're dressing them all up in these silver sort of fancy things, and they put me in this thing. I'm like, whatever, I'm doing it for the money. I've done this 100 times before. And I walk on stage, and there's a video camera and about 250 people.
Right?
And the woman starts lifting up my hair and talking about my face. She keeps doing this, and I'm like, whatever. And then she just goes,
She cut your hair off.
and she held up 2 feet of hair and dropped it in front of 200 people.
Oh,
And I did, "Oh, you're so sympathetic."
but I feel terrible. That's the worst thing you could do to a
It was
woman.
one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, because first of
What
all,
was it? I don't understand what the show
my
was.
hair looked like yours.
You mean that in a good way, right? You mean that in a good way.
On you, it's gorgeous. It's dignified
Yeah,
and beautiful.
right.
On me, I looked like a boy.
You look like a boy.
I looked like a boy. And
Like-
actually, what she did was I was sitting there shaking. Tears started streaming down my face.
In front of the whole audience.
In front of everybody.
They're
and they're all
going,
like,
what a show.
yeah. But no,
Yeah.
she takes it, cuts it like this, and then gave me one of those. This was in 1988.
Right.
Vidal Sassoon haircuts were in. Do you
Right.
remember those where it was like the angle?
Really?
So she cut it sort of in this angle like this, which you don't do with our kind of hair.
You don't
because
do
it
that.
doesn't stay.
That's
in
why
an
I would never
angle,
do.
but
I
yeah.
would never do that.
Might look good on you, actually.
Right.
Howie.
So, but
And then she cut a few bangs. I had one sideburn. She cut a few bangs and then flat ironed them up straight. I lost it.
what you?
And
you look like a doorstop from Jersey.
I did.
Hair up in
Really,
front.
I looked like a poodle gone wrong.
So you didn't know what you were in for? Was this a hair fashion show? Like
I'm
we're
expecting
stylists?
the home perm thing and the $100.
That's why
all I'm
it's
expecting.
important to speak Italian. Now
Yeah,
you are
that
very
would've
worldly. You've told us stories
Thanks.
from England and from France.
Yes. Yeah, we
And-
moved to Paris when I was 3.
Right.
And lived there for a few years, and
You
then we
speak
moved
French?
to England. I started only speaking French. That was my first language.
That's your first language?
It was.
Oh, you don't speak any? No.
Well, then we moved to England, and I was 5, and my mother would speak to me in French, and I was so humiliated that I wasn't speaking the language of the children in the school that I refused to speak French, and I'd speak English.
English?
English.
Did you have an English accent?
Yeah, I had a complete English. My father taped us, because I have 2 older sisters, and we all, because of our ages, at 3 I was speaking fluent French, while my middle sister was sort of speaking French with an English accent. And my eldest sister was speaking French, English, American. I mean, we're all so, it sounded so bizarre, and we would send tapes home to the relatives, and we have these tapes.
And how long did you live in London?
On and off for 8 years.
So when you came to America, did you have an English accent?
Mm-hmm. I had a British accent.
Can you still talk like that?
On cue?
This would be a
yes,
cue?
Yes, of course I can. But it all depends on how you do it. You know?
I like that, but that's phenomenal.
You've got to do the inflections up and down and sort of get into it.
But that's great for an actress, right?
It's great now, yeah. As a kid, I hated it.
Have you got to play that part of an English person?
I go in and I've had a lot of screen tests because the word is I do an English accent, but I never quite get there.
Somebody told me you do a mean Puerto Rican accent.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah, because when I was living in New York City, you do what you can to get by.
Right.
Nothing illegal. You just do what you can.
But $100 is
$100 is $100, man.
Even if you got to get your head shaved.
Just don't cut your hair.
Right, because you could look like Howie Mandel. That would be terrible.
I didn't mean that in a bad way.
So tell me the story in New York.
Sideburns don't look good on me. You know?
They don't? I would think you look good.
So I lived in this sort of tenement building, apartment building on the 3rd floor, and my landlady, actually it was the super's wife, lived right next door to me, and she was Puerto Rican, and she was pregnant, and of course I didn't realize that she was like pregnant and a crack addict because
not good.
No,
not a good mix.
So when she would knock on my door at midnight, and she only could know my name by my mailbox, you know, it said Margulies, so she'd knock on my door and she'd go, Margulies, could I borrow $20? My husband Tony told me ask you for 15, but I thought I asked you for 20.
That's wonderful. That is great. You're a real talent. I'm going to talk to you more. Stay right where you are. I've got a lot more questions. More with Julianna Margulies right after this. We're going to talk about George Clooney. And we're here with the lovely Julianna Margulies. Now, Julianna, George Clooney's going. You sad?
Oh, God. We just shot our last episode together in Chicago last week.
Emotional?
It was just, I just felt like such a geek.
Why?
Because we're standing there, we shot our last scene together, and then everyone is kind of mocking, oh, last time, and I just started to bawl.
Oh, really?
Standing in Chicago going, and we were in the hotel lobby, actually. George was staying to do a few more scenes, and I had to get back for the Golden Globes, and we were standing in the lobby at the hotel, and he goes, oh, I'll walk you to the elevator, and I just started crying, and he's giving me this hug, and he's like, it's okay, you know, I'll be back. I'm like, no. And these people walk out of the elevator, and they're like, it's true, they are an item. You know, everybody. Because we're sitting there crying and hugging each other, you know, and they're like.
Have you ever been an item? Have you ever, because you always hear a lot of people on a set.
We have 3 children, but aside from that, we don't.
So you can't let us in, give us a little tidbit on how it's going
I have to say, I'm really impressed with how the writers handled this, because it's a really big deal, and George is such an asset to this show. And I know that it's not just me and the cast, but it's the whole world is going to miss him and miss our relationship. You know, I think it's been one of the best television relationships around, because it's been so real.
Definitely. Now, when you're doing a series this long, when you're doing a series, I was on a show that long. Do you ever? He's taking off. He's going to do movies. I know you do films. Do you ever think about leaving yourself?
I only have. Yeah, I didn't sign on for more. I'm going to leave after next year.
You're leaving? Oh.
Yeah. But you know what? It's good. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but we're going to miss you.
And I'll miss the show, and it's been the most amazing ride of my life. But you know, all good things must come to an end. And it's like Law and Order.
Did they try to negotiate with you to stay?
Yes.
And you said no?
They were incredibly tempting.
Right. Big bucks, huh?
Oh my God! I called my father. Bless my dad. He's just.
You called him. You said, "Don't worry about it anymore." Don't worry about the stock
I called
market.
him and I said, "Am I nuts? Just tell me. Am I nuts?" You know, because you figure if your father says stay, you stay. You know. And he said, "You got to go with your heart." And did you ever think you'd be where you are now? And the days you were waitressing. I mean, it's just been such an amazing ride to suddenly be where I am.
What did you want to do? What do you want to do?
I want to go back home to New York.
Right.
I love it out here. It's great, but I'm homesick, and I want to get back on stage. I miss theater a lot.
Wow.
So I'd love to go home and do theater and do those little independent films that it's okay because I have 3 weeks and I can do it.
And you got all the cash you need, so you don't need to make.
Well, no, I would had I stayed. So I'm really excited to sort of, and I think it's important for the show to bring in new people and allow new people, because as long as I'm on the show,
right,
people are always constantly going to be wondering about the Hathaway Ross character, and the writers are handling it. You're all going to be very happy with the way it works out, I think,
right,
because it just wouldn't be right if he was killed off, or
right,
if I ended up actually finally committing suicide after the pilot. You know, I tried to commit suicide. I keep wondering about that.
This is a big announcement. I mean, that's kind of shocking that you want to leave that. Now, you didn't know, this is a weird direction for you that you even ended up on that show. I heard that you were up for like 4 different sitcoms.
Yeah, they would fly me from New York, and like once a month I'd get flown from New York and I go, I'm not funny. I can't do the sitcom. I'm not funny. And I kept getting tested for sitcoms after sitcoms.
Any ones you tested for that we would know right now that could have been you?
Oh. No.
No? None of them are on?
Dodged good bullets, didn't I?
So you did really well. And what about the free time that you may have now? You thinking about family, marriage? Does that play?
Oh, no.
Not at all?
I've been married to a show for what will have been 6 years, and I'm really excited. I think I want to go and
just explore.
Live in Paris, live in England, go and just play for a while and see where it takes me, and who knows?
You deserve it. Can I tell you something? So even if they didn't offer you, if you're walking away from all the big bucks, don't cut your hair. Don't cut your hair. It's wonderful. You're wonderful. Come back
so
anytime.
much.
Julianna Margulies, ER, NBC, Thursdays at 10 p.m. I'll be back with very funny Kevin Nealon right after this. Stay right where you are.